In 1865, the American Civil War finally came to an end, and Bill Watsoon, a veteran of the Union Army, returned home. At first he came back smiling, relieved to be alive. But after only a few days, that smile began to fade. He had seen too much. He had watched his best friend die. He had felt the sting of knives in close combat. He had listened to wolves in the forest, tearing at the bodies of dead soldiers. He had heard the screams of abused women and children. War was filthy, and Bill Watsoon knew that truth better than most. He lived alone in a small wooden cabin on a plot of land so overgrown it barely resembled anything owned by man anymore. His home was near the small historical town called Seattle, Portland, a place that had been called to war. The people there now looked at Bill as nothing more than a washed-up drunk, a man wasting whatever life he had left. As the nightmares of war grew stronger, Bill began to drink more and more, trying to drown out the memories clawing at the edges of his mind. One night, deep in a haze of alcohol, he began to hallucinate. Convinced someone was attacking him, he grabbed a whiskey bottle and smashed it against the wall, shards flying like shrapnel. Then the strength left him, and he fell to his knees, sobbing, no matter how hard a man he believed himself to be. In that moment, he muttered, through tears and clenched teeth,
"Either I heal myself or no one ever will. I'm sick and tired of this world. I want to find peace."
Disappointed in himself and disgusted with the world, Bill did not sleep that night. Instead, he sat at his old wooden table, smoking cigarette after cigarette, while watching the fireplace, thinking about his next move. He had already lost 2 years to alcohol since coming back from the war, and he is refusing to lose another one. It was a chilly morning in 1867. Bill Watsoon sat at his table, smoking cigarette after cigarette, before finally stepping out of his cabin into the crisp air. With a bitter look, he watched the townsfolk go about their day, indifferent and distant. He walked slowly to the small general store to buy bread and some dried meat. The shopkeeper, a stout man behind the counter, greeted him cheerfully.
"Morning, Bill. We just got a new shipment of whiskey. Care to try a bottle?"
Bill shook his head.
"Not today."
The man raised an eyebrow.
"Not even a little? Surprising after, well, you know."
Bill's eyes fell on a paper poster tacked to the wall. "Alaska is ours." He nodded slowly.
"I heard about that. America bought Alaska from Russia, right?"
The shopkeeper said, smiling.
"That's right, big news. The Russians were ready to sell, and Seward made it happen. They say it's full of fur, gold, and wilderness."
Bill gave a small, almost imperceptible nod and paid for his food. As he made his way back to the cabin, he saw his property, overgrown, wild, and abandoned to time. The townspeople barely spared him a glance. That moment, standing amidst the tangled grass and weeds, Bill made his decision. He would go to the town office, sell the cabin and the land, and leave everything behind. That day, Bill sold everything. He returned to his cabin, donned his old military jacket, and trimmed his long, unkempt hair and beard. He packed a small backpack with a few essentials, including a sturdy knife, and prepared himself for the journey he had long imagined. With a determined stride, he made his way to the port. A large merchant ship was preparing to set sail for Alaska, its sails billowing in the morning breeze. Bill climbed aboard, feeling a mixture of anticipation and relief. The voyage was long and grueling. For 2 weeks, the ship carved its way along the northern Pacific, through cold winds and misty waters. Bill spent much of the time on deck, staring at the horizon, thinking of the life he had left behind and the vast, untamed wilderness that awaited him. By the time they sighted the rugged coastline of Alaska, Bill felt a renewed sense of purpose. The forests, Mountains and endless snow promised both hardship and freedom, everything he had been searching for. When Bill stepped off the ship onto the wooden docks of Kodiak, he felt both lost and strangely determined. The air was colder than he expected, sharp and salty from the sea. Russian-built houses lined the shore, low and sturdy, with smoke rising from chimneys. A few elite fishermen hauled nets nearby, and American soldiers in thick coats watched the harbor with the uneasy authority of newcomers. Bill slung his pack over his shoulder and walked along the muddy path into town. Everything felt foreign. Different language, different faces, different rules. But the wilderness beyond the settlement called to him stronger than anything ever had. He found the local trading post, a creaking wooden building with pelts hanging from the rafters. Inside, the smell of tobacco, tanned hides, and old wood filled the room. The merchant behind the counter looked up, eyes tired but observant.
I'm looking for a rifle,
Bill said.
something strong enough for bears.
The merchant studied him for a moment, then placed a Winchester Model 1866 on the counter, wiping the barrel with a cloth.
This one's cheaper than a Hawken.
He said.
Not as powerful, but it fires fast. Good rifle for a man starting fresh.
Bill brushed his hand along the stock, thoughtful.
Have you ever had to kill one?
The merchant's expression hardened. His voice dropped.
I had to.
He said.
It killed my son.
Bill didn't move.
I wasn't there in time. Found the tracks first. Then I found what was left.
He swallowed.
I shot the bastard in the head, then I jumped on it and stabbed it. Maybe 160 times, maybe more. I didn't stop until the knife handle snapped.
He met Bill's eyes, full of fire and hurt.
I'd fight one with my bare hands if I could bring my boy back.
Silence settled between them. Bill nodded once, not out of agreement, but respect, and set his money on the counter. The merchant wrapped the Winchester, added a box of cartridges, and slid them toward him with a quiet hand. Bill took the rifle and stepped back into the cold air outside, exhaling slowly. He didn't feel ready, but he had already left his old life behind. There was only forward now. Bill saw the stable and knew he would need a horse. The seller was brushing one of the animals.
Morning, friend.
The man said.
Looking for a mount?
I need one strong and durable, something that can handle the cold.
And what for exactly?
The mountains.
Oh, so you're going to play trapper too, huh? Most who try don't come back. Wolves, bears, the cold, and worst of all, the Indians.
He shook his head.
I couldn't live like that.
Bill didn't answer. He just looked at him, quiet and unreadable.
All right, let's see.
He raised a lantern and led Bill deeper into the stable.
This here's my best horse for that kind of life. Fearless, strong, stubborn, a black Mustang.
Bill stepped closer and ran his hand along the horse's neck, feeling the warmth beneath the coat.
Yeah, I like this one. What's the price?
That'll be $350.
Bill reached into his coat, counted out the money, and placed it in the man's hand without a word.
Glad doing business with you.
They shook hands, and Bill took the horse's reins, leading the Mustang through the settlement. Smoke curled from a few chimneys, dogs barked in the distance, and the cold evening light dimmed the edges of the town. He walked until he reached a cramped little shop tucked between two storage sheds. The fur dealer. Inside, the air smelled of hides, smoke, and something faintly metallic. The owner, a wiry old man with sharp eyes, glanced up from a pile of stitched pelts.
Looking for something specific?
He asked.
I need warmth. Thick hides. Mountain kinda cold.
These are fresh, white-tailed deer hides, tough and warm. And that blanket there is heavy wool and woven tight. Keeps the cold out.
The man nodded and motioned toward a rack. Bill picked out two hides in the blanket. As he laid them on the counter, the old man studied him a moment.
You headed far? For a trip like that, you'll want a real knife. Not some store toy. Something that cuts through bone.
He reached beneath the counter and placed a knife in Bill's hands. It was a beautiful piece. Polished steel, the handle carved from deer antler, hollowed through the center. Inside, tucked neatly, were a small flint and a fishing hook. Bill turned it over slowly.
Truly a beautiful knife, but it's a little too expensive for me. If you give it to me for a lower price now, I'll make it up to you later with a bear hide, once I get one.
The old man let out a short, rough laugh, amused and perhaps a bit impressed.
I'll hold you to that, young man. Good luck.
Bill paid what he could, slid the knife into his belt, and stepped back outside. Night was beginning to fall, slow, blue and cold, and somewhere beyond the fading light, the mountains waited for him.